Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Dowd, and I am going to be teaching you about surfing. Catching the perfect wave. Well, what is catching the perfect wave? Catching the perfect wave can differ from surfer to surfer because it is based on your preferences of a perfect wave. Me, I want a wave that tunnels. I want to go through one of those. Things that you see in movies, yeah, one of those. Doesn't really occur very often, especially in islands over here, in Okinawa, Japan. We don't really get waves like that. Places like Tahiti, Chopo, or Hawaii, they get like pipeline. There's a reason it's called pipeline. They get massive pipes. I want to definitely surf that one day, but I'm not quite on that level yet because there's a lot that goes into catching a pipe. Surfing the perfect wave. See, when you're surfing waves, a lot of factors go into even creating a wave because it all depends on currents of the wave, currents of the ocean rather, wind direction, as well as tide levels. When you're surfing in places like Okinawa, Japan, that is just surrounded by coral rock, and when you got a reef break, reef breaks are when the water breaks on the reef and causes waves to happen. Places like Okinawa are very shallow, and if it's not high tide, you can get hurt very badly because coral rock will cut through you like butter. And that is not fun because I've experienced that. It's a recipe for disaster. Let me show you what a board consists of. Okay, this is your typical board, right? This is the nose of the board. This is the tail. You got the edges of the board, which are called rails. Okay, and the vertical line that goes through the center is called the stringer. The stringer of the board is pretty important because that is where you want to keep your body aligned with. You lean more to one side or the other, and you'll end up falling off the board. This little squiggly line I got drawn out for you guys, it's called a leash or a leg rope. It's what keeps the board attached to you. Why is that important? Because if you don't have that and you fall off a wave, your board will go flying. And if you happen to be on the lip of the wave, your board will really go flying. And if there's other surfers in the water, cause a collision, that's just no fun. Very dangerous. People get their eyes poked out, fins hitting the head. I've had that a few times. You don't want to have too long of a leash. You also don't want to have too short of a leash. You have too short of a leash, you can cause yourself injury. You have too long of a leash, kind of defeats the purpose because your board's still going to go flying and hit somebody else. Okay, contours and concaves, right? Which means the bottom, shape of the bottom of the board. Rounder bottoms are for going slower. You want that on a longboard if you're more for the easy riding, you're not trying to maneuver and do radical movements. That is what you want. The ones with the concaves on the bottom, that's what channels the water to your fins. Why do you want that? You want that if you want to move faster over water, because when you have water flowing channel to your fins, your board will go flying over water a lot smoother. That also leads me to the shape of the vertical line of the board, which is actually happens to be the same. The bottom of the board can be either rounded or it can be a lot flatter. Rounded boards are more for slower, more of an easy riding, obviously, because there's less water touching the board when you're on top of it. The flatter the board, the more in contact with the water it is, also the faster it will go over water. So when you want a fast board, you want it to be a little bit flatter with more of a concave to the bottom. So you got more of the board touching the water, and you also have more water being channeled to your fins. So the more of a rocker you have, the slower it is. The less of a rocker you have, the faster it is. Rails are at the edges of the board. The straighter the plane, the better it is. The fuller the rails, they won't dig into the water as much, and you want fuller rails if you're surfing bigger waves because you don't want the board digging into the water, because if it digs into the water, it'll throw you off balance and you'll just go catapulting. And that doesn't feel good either. The art of surfing. Where does surfing originate? It originated with the ancient Polynesian culture. They used to use canoes to go catch fish, and when they would do so, they were trying to think of a way to more efficiently and faster get back to shore, if that makes sense. So they decided riding a wave back to shore would be a faster and more efficient way of getting their catch back to shore. Also, you'd be a lot less tired of paddling back, right? Well, eventually that evolved into modern surfing because people thought, hey, this is kind of fun, and they started experimenting with boards. But boards back then were about 30 plus feet, massive boards. Eventually, people wanted to test the limits, and they kept making them shorter and shorter and shorter, and eventually you have things like the longboard and shortboard. Level of difficulty when it comes to surfboards can vary from board to board. This can make it very difficult when trying to pick out a surfboard to purchase, because if you're not familiar with how the design and shape go, it can affect the board in negative ways. I've had some negative boards because I thought some things would be more suitable for me, but they weren't. And what I'm referring about is the shape of the board. The heavier you are, the more fuller of rails you want, and the lighter you want a thinner board. Also goes for the length of the board. The bigger you are, you probably want a longer board. The shorter you are, you want a shorter board. But then again, that also goes into what your preferences are of surfing waves. But that's also after you get experienced. Longboards are typically better for beginners because you have more of a platform to learn on versus starting out on a short board. Kind of hard to stand up on a short, small platform on the water when you're not accustomed to the feeling. I used to skateboard, and why I love surfing so much is because when you skateboard, you have the same pipes, you have the same ramps, and you just got to get good at skating those rails or your half pipes or ramps, right? Well, with surfing, there's no telling what kind of a wave it's going to throw you. It could bank left, it could bank right, it could bank tunnel on you, it could not be a wave at all. A bunch of mush. So surfing is totally unpredictable, and that is what I love about surfing. So, do you guys have any questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. You will all have a great day.